I'm noticing more and more unlikely heroes on the internet. Spudman, 2.3 million followers. He has a video that did 94 million views, 23 million views, 29 million views. Spudman is exactly what he says. He sells jacket potatoes out of a van. It's such a phenomenon. Like, I'm blown away.
When are you going to launch your Spudman page?
So right now I am on a health kick, so I am trying to repress. We reached the 1% Club. We hit the 1% Club, episode 23.
Welcome. Feels good.
This was a very special episode of Memes and Machines. We reached a milestone. 1%. We are now part of the 1% and we explain why. Catty speaks about a new browser that is going to revolutionize your work. We talk about Surreal, their latest campaign that was genius. Or was it a disaster in the end? We debate that. We explore unlikely heroes on the internet, from creators all the way through to small businesses. Spudman, a potato van that has blown up. Why and what can small businesses learn from that? We debate psychology in marketing, how you leverage psychological principles, how you leverage friction to improve your user experiences and create better outcomes for your products and services. We touch on the Mcnamara Fallacy. What is it? And why should you care? And finally, we debate if Nike is losing its edge.
You will find out how to get 1 million impressions in one day in this episode.
Damn. Catman, good to see you. I'm glad you survived your trip.
How you doing, man? Yes, I am back safe and sound from the French Alps. Had a lot of fun with some friends. How's your week been?
Good. Chaos as always, but fun. Yeah. I'm losing track of days, which is always a sign of the chaos that we're in. I can't tell if we're Thursday today, Friday, Monday. I don't actually know. Is that a good thing? Probably not.
Well, it's Thursday, for one thing. I think it's a good thing. I think it's good to get lost in the moment every now and then come up for air when you need to.
Amen. I will say it is a special day today. Very special day.
Why is that?
We
We're
reached the 1% Club. We hit the 1% Club, episode 23. I said this before. Only 1% of all podcasts ever make it to episode 23. So I don't know what this means for you, but I suspect tomorrow morning I am going to have some swag around the office.
Well, I'm in the 1%, so yeah, it's some 5-star dining tonight.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You spew privilege anyway, so throw the 1% in there and God damn it, you wear that crown well, my man. That aside, what have you found interesting? I feel like I want to kick you an open question. We're here to talk about marketing, but are there any companies that you're admiring for what they're building, or are there any companies that you're admiring for their marketing efforts right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say there's two companies that I'm spending a lot of time with at the moment. Number one, I've spent a lot of time talking about them, but Farcaster continue to explode. Don't know if anyone has seen the stats, but one of my many predictions was right again. They are hitting exponential daily active users day over day. So that's been exciting. That's I'm probably the first time I'm spending more time on a decentralized social network than I am on the centralized kind of original, which is super exciting. But then secondly, one of the big success stories, I'd say, of the last year or so in tech has been a company called the Browser Company. And they are building a new browser called Arc, ARC. And it's dubbed to be the Google Chrome killer. And I think I've always been excited by their mission, because to build a new browser is such an ambitious undertaking when you have a product like Chrome or the competitors that are just so dominant and almost just like a part of the way we interact with technology every day. To then go and say we're going to actually displace that is such a huge, ambitious project. But they, in my mind, embody thinking from first principles. They really have looked at the browser experience and completely reimagined it from scratch. And one of the signals that I always like to see is, young people, some of my friends in tech, they're all starting to make the switch. So a lot of people within our company are now using exclusively Arc because it is a better experience than the Google Chrome.
Okay, give me the breakdown. Firstly, why do we need a new browser experience? And then what makes Arc special?
How many tabs do you have open right now?
I can't count, too many.
It's a car crash, right? I'm the same. I'm looking up now. It's a complete car crash. That is the number one problem, right? Like that is not how that I think is a reflection of how our brains feel. And the Chrome experience is anxiety inducing. Arc have a really nice kind of opinionated way of looking at browsers. The first thing they do, which I love, is that they close all of your browsers at the end of the day. All of your tabs, at the end of the day. So when you open at the start of the new day, it's fresh. You're starting from scratch. And actually, you realize that you never needed those tabs open in the first place.
You're giving me anxiety saying that. You say that and I get anxiety going, I feel like I'm never going to find anything.
Well, it's also built with kind of AI from the very root of the app. And what that means is that they recently coined this term. It's the browser that browses for you. So Arc kind of is very good at sifting through your history, but also sifting through Google for you. So you're not spending, so like, I'll give you an example. If I was to go on Arc and search, show me I want to see 3 Apple ads. It will go on YouTube. It will pull those 3 ads for me. It will put them into 3 different tabs. It will do that all for me. It won't require me going into YouTube, going and clicking them. I can tell it to do something and also almost do the browsing for me. It's just a very kind of clean experience that doesn't involve a lot of heavy lifting like Chrome does. But there's just like a million features. I can't sit here and describe why Arc is better. There's just like a million features. You have to try it for yourself. And I will tell you, after a week of trying it, I'm like, oh God, Chrome was broken. Like my workflow was broken on Chrome. And Arc just do a really good job of providing an alternative which doesn't feel like this headache every time I open it.
I have never heard anyone make Chrome sound like such hard work, or any browser for that fact. So I am you've sold me, by the way. Your predictive prowess has definitely sold me. I am going to try Arc and see if I
should try it.
If I come to the same conclusion. But as you were describing that, the first thing that went through my mind is it felt like a browser worthy of the 1%.
It's a 1% browser, I'll tell you that.
So what do you like about how did you discover Arc? Was it just word of mouth, or did you see any of their marketing or anything?
Exactly.
Like that?
So yeah, I mean, Arc is one thing, but what the reason I really love them is they have taken their users along on the journey of building the company, which I think has been a strategy that a lot of companies have talked about and played with, but I don't think I've seen an execution quite as good as Arc's. And it really feels like they have documented the journey of building the browser in a way that is cinematic. It feels like a Netflix documentary, but it also isn't unpretentious. You're really seeing behind the scenes. And I think it's also helps that their execution of the product is great. Like they're shipping great products, so you don't feel like this, you don't feel like the media that they also produce is compensating for a lackluster product. And so when you have this marriage of the two, I think it's really powerful. They've done a great job of putting their CEO really kind of front and center. And he is, in a lot of the videos, he's talking to their users. Mm-hmm. He's talking to the customers. He's got a great personality, very friendly, very personable. And when you think about who he's going up against Google, right? So they've identified that like one of the biggest ways we can win is by our users feeling like our CEO is, literally on the front lines with us. Whereas, with Google Chrome, you're kind of a million departments away. You don't really know who's working on it. And so I think that's how when you're a significantly smaller team, they have probably a fraction of the resources of Google. One of the ways you can win is by building a community of people who really love you and love the journey in a way that no one really does that with Google. No one really does that with Meta anymore. They're just too big. And that's probably a problem they'll never be able to solve. And so I've just seen the way they're able to get outsized engagement on their content by making it just like enjoyable, entertaining, but really personal, really, really human.
I won't allow you to slander our new client Google, by the way. I will
love
defend
Google.
them. I will defend them to the hills now that we're working with them. No, in all seriousness, I think it's a really important lesson for startups. You have so many advantages. You don't have resource. You won't have buying power. You don't have distribution, but you can 100% out-create, be more distinctive. I think you can bring your team members front and center of all your communication. We're seeing that increasingly with a lot of the innovation businesses, whether that's hardware revolutions. We talk about the R1, the Rabbit, the pin that came out, the fact that Apple are putting their executives in every single advert in a really inauthentic way. But we are seeing this humanization of brands, and I think it's because people understand the inherent link as the equity in maybe the teams and the people involved in building a company. When their profile raises, so do the company. They're interlinked in so many ways. It's really interesting. I've seen other companies have a lot of success with this, or not. So Surreal, the cereal company. They do some incredibly smart advertising, and it's hit after hit. And they found a tone of voice. And what they tend to leverage really well is out of home and great copy, combining great copy, smart creative platforms and concepts, and using out of home and the inherent digital distribution that lives on through LinkedIn and Twitter and marketing chatter, right? So I love what they're doing. They dropped an ad this week from, it was a billboard, and it was basically from the founder. He was front and center, and he was outside it. He's on the billboard. He looks up. And let me find it, actually, because I want to read it verbatim, because I think there's an important lesson. And it just says, "Hey, hi, Dad. Remember how I quit my job to start this stupid, in brackets, cereal company? Well, we just launched in Sainsbury's. Who's disappointed now? Signed off as Kit." I believe that's the founder's name. Surreal. However, it's Surreal. And he's looking up and pointing. And I saw that from his post or from the brand channel, and it got crazy engagement. What happened the next day I thought was wonderful. Apparently his brother is an entrepreneur and has a company called Days that is a non-alcoholic beer. And he says, "Big deal, little bro. My non-alcoholic beers launched in Sainsbury's ages ago. Also, you smell." And I thought that that family dynamic, that personality, they both win, right? They take that and they both win. It was amazing. And I love that. And then, plot twist, an advertising agency comes along and they basically say, "Nice one, guys, but your white male public school privilege is showing. So maybe tone down the faux hardship flex. Also, did you use DocuSign?" And I don't know how I feel about that. Firstly, I'm not a fan of punch down advertising. I don't mind a bit of sass now and then, but whether there's enough criticism in the world. So to kind of attack, I think in part, I admire the fact that they were brave enough to try and attach themselves to a moment. I think the action of putting an advert next to these two ads is great. And maybe they're involved in the other two ads. I don't know, right? But I do think that's smart. What I don't like is I think they just really missed on tonality. And I don't think we have to inject a politically charged slander. I'm sure these two guys sound like they may be privileged, but, I don't think it's relevant in the context of this ad. Thoughts? What do you think? Have you seen it?
I agree. I just think what a fumble, because whoever had the there's a third billboard there. Like they managed to get that placement. And I agree. It seems like a strange attack, which I don't think anyone really wins. I don't know if the agency wins there. I don't know like who is meant to benefit from something like that. I did see some criticism over the billboard, but it's a billboard, and I don't think it was. It's not as if the founders were dunking on anyone else. They were just, celebrating their own achievements. And do you know what it is? In all honesty, it's very British. It's very British to see two founders doing well and immediately want to snipe them and take them down. And something I've learned is you wouldn't see that in America. You wouldn't see that in the US. I think it's just it's one of the things you have to deal with is that we don't like celebrating successes, and they might have had an upbringing that gives them the freedom to take more risks, but we should still be celebrating when you have success stories like theirs.
Yeah, I think the undertone is, so what? Privilege or not, great, good. They're doing good work. It's interesting when I think about their personality. They are, but along with a handful of other companies, they are delivering a marketing strategy as a consumer brand through the lens of maximum LinkedIn exposure. If you think of all their out of home, it is, I'm going to create something that I know is going to be championed either by the advertising industry and the community that underpins that, or LinkedIn. And it seems almost exclusive that I can think of another, is it one of the like detox holiday home type brands where you go away and do a digital detox? Again, I forgot the name.
Really?
A couple of other brands do the same.
Yeah,
it's an interesting strategy. I don't know how it serves you long term, but I think it's a way to get from 0 to 1 really quickly, and I think it's pretty smart.
Agreed.
Talking of smart, I have been tasking our teams to find unlikely heroes on the internet. So whenever we're thinking about creative work, I tend to view our work as an ecosystem now. So, every idea has some origins and a root, and an idea should be a piece of consumer insight, some cultural insight, some brand insight, or it can be very much anchored to an individual, a creator, a person. And on my discoveries, I'm noticing more and more unlikely heroes on the internet. So we'll all know kind of like a breakout creator that does something very specific. So it'll be like an English teacher that does English classes online and they build a following, or a social media marketer that gives social media tips and builds a big following and so on. I think over the last few years, we've started to see kind of breakout brands as well, consumer brands. I remember Little Moon several years ago. We would use that as a case study to say, TikTok is a space where scale-ups and small businesses can actually compete and win. It's somewhat of a great leveler through the right type of contextually relevant creative. And I remember the Little Moon story. And then you fast forward a few years and you see kind of these Bingley Mega Chippy moments, which are a bit kind of like meme culture. That's not intentional, but again, it's symbolic of how the internet grabs hold of a small business and can transform its fortune. Prime is a great example of how that manifested. And I can name the several corner shops in Wakefield, like that sell Salt Prime for £25 a bottle. And it was like it became an internet meme about them scamming people, but then people would travel all around Britain to go to this Wakefield corner shop. So I'm seeing this more and more. And then I came across a creator called Spudman. And Spudman, you might think, is an individual that is doing something like interesting. Well, Spudman is exactly what he says. He sells jacket potatoes out of a van. And I did a little bit of digging. And Spudman, he's been basically going live on TikTok for about 2 years, maybe even longer. So it's very, very intentional. And as a consequence, he's amassed a huge following. And he has this deeply interesting story about his life and some of he talks very personally about some health challenges that he's going through. And he has people all around the world travel to get a jacket potato from him. And then he did a charity event, and I saw an aerial shot that ended up going on the news. And there was this aerial shot, and he's basically had, and I can't even describe, probably 5,000-6,000 people queuing for a jacket potato from this van. People coming from all around the world. He calls them his Spud Army, which I love. And now he shouts out other local businesses. He shouted out a Spud van from Barnsley. And I'm like, yes, I remember that Spud van. So now there's this kind of small business economy that is truly thriving in TikTok. Firstly, what do you think of this phenomenon? And if you are a small business, are you just going all in on TikTok? Like, it's such a phenomenon. Like, I'm blown away by what I'm seeing.
Yeah, it's I think I remember seeing recently, I think it was a curry house somewhere in England do like a murder on the Tandoor or something.
Yeah, it was off the film.
Yeah, exactly. From Saltburn, and
Saltburn, yeah.
It does feel like there's this, yeah. Like, I mean, TikTok is the most. I think because the algorithm is so intensely localized. In the past, right, like, we never really would see content from, like, just like, there's never a social media platform that would know that I was a northerner, or that would know that I was, from a particular part of London and would serve me content from those areas. This is the first time that we're now seeing hyper-localized content. And so as a result, you're starting to see, hyper-localized celebrities like that. And I think the important thing to note here is that, as somebody who is part of the English TikTok algorithm, I am seeing the curry house in Bristol that did the Murder on the Dance Floor song, but my American friends aren't. So it's still like, it's still gated to that area mostly. But what I will say is that it is, I think, a huge opportunity for small businesses to really think about how can I ride this viral wave. But at the same time, I think there are a lot of these people that get these very short-term engagement hits. They probably become mega famous for 2 weeks, and then I don't know if it has any meaningful long-term effect. I don't know if people are going to choose to eat there because of these viral moments. So whilst I think they're fun, I don't know if they are, in some ways, they could be damaging to people. And we've seen that in the past where people get celebrity status that they had no intention of getting. It could be actually quite harmful, especially when they're people who are not really set up to deal with it.
Bro, Spudman, 2.3 million followers. He has a video that did 94 million views, 23 million views, 29 million views. He gets hundreds of thousands. People are queuing up at 9 a.m. in a morning. And he's got a good look. Like, when you talk image, you're talking pink mohawk, very distinctive. Very sweet, nice, does charity. I'm like blown away. So in part, and this is an outlier. We are speaking about an ultimate outlier, but there are many of these stories. I just think it's a wonderful leveler. I love the fact that an individual can take the initiative, relentlessly create content on a platform for several years, as a jacket potato van, and just transform probably his life, his family's life.
Yeah,
he's shouting at, like, honestly, it's an endearing story, but I feel good about this one.
So when are you gonna launch your Spudman page?
When am I? So right now I am on a health kick, so I am trying to repress. Potatoes aren't big on my agenda, but I'm a carb guy. Some people like chocolate, sweet tooth. If you put a bag of crisps in front of me, dangerous. I am trying to behave. Spuds maybe not it. I will find another. I'll find another vice, you know, for longevity. Dude, I want to get your thought on trickery, and I'm going to use that word. Wrong word, actually. Psychology. I watched a video and it was talking about a coffee shop, and they have this really interesting technique where at the counter they put basically a double or nothing. You get your coffee for free, or you get, you know, a second coffee. But if you lose, you got to pay for the second coffee. So it's a double or nothing. So people can opt in to double or nothing their coffee, right? What I love about that is it stacks the deck in their favour, in the sense that the downside is it costs them probably 20p to make that coffee, or whatever the currency is. The upside is they make another, you know, £4 on a coffee. So that is like a phenomenal business. And I remember times where we would use FOMO, insider knowledge, leaked emails to drive curiosity around a sale or something of that nature. So what tricks have you seen in the psychology playbook that you thought was really smart, and any come to mind recently?
Yeah, it's like, I remember very early in my career reading about how Nandos deliberately allow people to fill their Coca-Cola glasses, or rather their water, their £2 water glasses with Coca-Cola, because people think that they're getting a good deal on Nandos, so they'll keep coming back. They say, "Oh, Nandos is a great deal because, you know, I get to save £3 on my Coca-Cola." And actually, to Nandos, the cost there is completely negligible, while they're, you know, upmarking them on chicken for about 200 or 300%. And I think that was my very early, you know, there's this kind of oldest trick in the book is give people a perceived, you know, level of value that they're getting, even though it might not be true, and you'll see them coming back for more. One of my favorite bars in Brooklyn has one of these big spinning wheels that, you know, you pay like $5 to spin, and it's got like free drinks, free shots. It's only when you really study the prizes you realize that every single prize there is much less than $5. And so, like, I think we're almost seeing these like oldest tricks in the book now start to make themselves over to marketing. You see it with some Shopify stores. They actually will literally have the spinning wheel. I don't know if any of these things really work long term. Maybe they do. Maybe they, you know, are good for bringing in those kind of first time users. But they feel to me like, you know, short-term fixes rather than real, like, long-term brand plays.
Yeah, I don't think they're brand plays, but I think they're tactics and mechanics that I don't know if enough businesses, whether they're digital businesses or physical, think about user experience. Like, every touch point is an opportunity. And there are some industries that have really leveraged these hacks. Think of any travel site. You know, when you go onto a booking site, it will tell you that there's 10 other people looking at this thing. There's only 3 lose. They're trying to create urgency. So they're leaning into psychology. I remember hearing about Ryanair deliberately. So this was at a time when Ryanair was working its way to being the #1 airline. They deliberately create awful friction in UX. And that sounds counterintuitive, right? Why would you create friction in UX? They want people, which are often elderly people, to make mistakes. So they charge them $100 to do the name change. They made it so you had to like click 50 random spammy pop-ups to rent a car and accidentally click insurance. And this is counterintuitive to what the tech industry teaches, which is about friction. But there are a lot of smart businesses that use friction to their advantage. And if your promise to your customers isn't, like Ryanair, for example, their promises will do you the cheapest flights ever. You will put up with all the shit that goes with that. If your promise is like, we're going to give you a great experience, then yeah, you have to remove friction. I'll tell you where I was disappointed. I subscribed to the Times online. They auto-subscribed me, or however the term went out. I went from they hook you in with a $1 subscription, and suddenly I'm paying $15 a month. And I'm so lazy with these things. I left it running for 6 months. I keep seeing this £15 come out my bank, and I kept leaving it. So I go, one day I'm going to log in. Forgot my login, as you do. So I figure it out. I get in the account. I go, okay, how do I get out of this thing? Well, apparently, on a digital platform, you have to ring them. And again, that's just a deliberate psychological barrier. I'm sure it's far more convenient for them to have an opt-out option. But no, they choose to make me call them because I decided not to call them because I was busy. And then I got hit with the £15 again. I was like, right, that's it. I'm in. I'm giving them a call. For me to go call someone is quite a big commitment. So I'm like, okay, did it. They offered me the £1 again. And I thought, I'm not falling into this trip. I do not want the Times radio. I do not need to know about all the things. And I spent maybe 5 minutes just batting down. I'm trying to be polite. I'm quite an agreeable person. I got to the point where I was like, can you just cancel the fucking thing?
Yeah.
I did not swear. The point being is, I think as marketeers and when we're considering our experiences for our customers, there's a place for friction, I truly believe, to optimize. There's a place for psychological incentives. And there's also a place for just removing barriers entirely, right? I would much prefer my ethos as a company or a vision to be premium experience, lower friction, low barriers. That orientates me around a set of goals that I can personally get behind. But I also do understand the Times making a commercial decision. As a consequence of that decision, they probably took £100 off me that they would never get otherwise, right? So I think there's a reality that we do have to often consider as marketeers. Yes, we are customer first, but fundamentally we're in the business of trying to help people make profit. And we shouldn't turn our nose to some of these hacks and tricks that are highly, highly effective.
I'd say the number one place you're going to learn as many of these hacks and tricks at once is just your email inbox. It's like the cold email game, which is I feel like it's heating up. It's getting more insane than it's ever been. I feel like every single day is a new battle in my inbox. Who can craft the most deceiving email subject? Who can make me click the link with their complete bullshit. But people are running out of ideas, it feels like.
The problem, I have many problems with this topic. I think the saturation of automation and the invasion of privacy is, we've got to a point, because I accepted a connection on LinkedIn, did not give you permission to hit me with 50 inbox messages about synergies. Synergies I cannot stand. I still don't understand what you mean by that. Let's have a call with synergies, assumptive close, pick this day or this day. I respect the sales hustle. I really do. Yeah. However, there's a new policy coming in Google. I don't know if you've heard, whereby they will penalize accounts that, I believe, out of every 100 emails sent, I think you have a margin for error of basically getting 2 spam reports. Any more than that, will downweight your business, your brand, your reputation, your email. So I'm a big fan of meaning that people are going to have to mature and not be lazy. I actually even probably respect the really, really lazy ones more than the kind of sneaky ones.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
There's something about that I'm a bit nostalgic.
It's definitely got out of hand since AI, since ChatGPT, and now since like all these automation courses. Like, it is worse than I've ever seen it, and someone needs to figure that out. It's a complete mess.
Can I tell you, I have a theory as well. I believe Andrew Tate is behind a lot of the nonsense that we see.
Yes. Why?
Because he does something called Hustlers University.
Yeah.
And from what I have observed, Hustlers University is a series of ways to make money and live a life and whatever. And I know one of the things in there is like trading crypto, Forex. Think of every scammy, any scammy nefarious. one of the things I've seen a video and a clip was talking about, and I've seen lots of people then like regurgitate these kind of hustle porn star type characters that gain a decent following online. I've basically seen them talk a lot about you can make money now by selling big ticket items. So basically building automation stacks for people. So I promise you, and this is not me being hyperbolic, this is not me exaggerating, I get at least 40 messages a day, at least 40, half of them email, half of them on LinkedIn, that ask me if I want help with lead generation. And this has never happened before. I've always had a very active inbox, but this is my conspiracy theory that Andrew Tate has inadvertently created or influenced an army of people to go out there and say they're going to get leads. And I just think, scumbag. There, I said it. What a scumbag.
Let's hope he isn't listening.
Yeah, true. Jay, I've just dropped you. This is for the trailer, right? This would be great. Scumbag. Every time I use a swear word, it makes its way into the trailer. Jay really enjoys me swearing. I'm going to do it more often. Off swearing, I'm going to talk about something that is a little more grounded, because I wrote this down. I wrote the Mcnamara Fallacy. And if you're not aware, the Mcnamara Fallacy is basically the principle that we measure what's easiest to measure, not what matters most. And I think it's so true. If you think of in marketing, we like to measure clicks and we like to measure impressions because it's easy to measure, right? There's certain things that we can attribute in when we're trying to qualify anything. We'll use a 1 to 5 rating system because that's quite easy to measure, but it doesn't actually give you actionable intelligence. It's a marker that combined with other information and other data can provide value. So I suppose my question is, are there KPIs in marketing that you believe, Catman, should be scrapped and are pointless? Or just, are there things marketeers are doing in that vein that just don't work?
Yeah, it's especially in my industry, in Web3, there's a lot of noise, right? And so like and there's something that's the same in any industry, right? Like if somebody said to me, go out tomorrow and get 1 million impressions, I could probably do it. I could probably do some kind of piece of content which is going to get us 1 million impressions, right? But it's not going to be the right impressions. Same
Look
like
at
if I was
flex 1 million impressions. I could go out tomorrow and drop 1 million impressions. Send me a marketing budget, Kai. Send the check, and we'll get you 1 million impressions.
I promise you, I could get 1 million impressions tomorrow, easily. All I have to do is tweet from the Third Web handle, we are releasing Third Web coin. And every single like of this post gets 1 Third Web. You know what I mean? Like, I could do it. But the point I'm making is, it would go crazy. The point I'm making is, it's not going to be the right people. It's not going to be the right impressions. And so, like, I think we've become a little bit obsessed with impressions, reach, engagement. I talk a lot about our YouTube channel, and I think that's one where the numbers are never that big. The numbers are never that impressive. But the intent of the users is so high that the 10,000 impressions on YouTube is worth a lot more to me than 10,000 on Twitter or on other platforms. And so I think like most marketers, especially if you're close to social marketing, you don't really look at the metrics down the funnel. You're very kind of obsessed with these input, engagement metrics, which is good for awareness, but often you don't really know the true impact that you're having on your brand. And so is impressions a vanity metric? I don't know if I go that far, but maybe.
So you're saying, if I was to press you right now, you're saying we should scrap impressions as a metric. Would you go that far?
I'll tell you one thing. I have never reported the impressions figures for Third Web on social. With my team, with the company, I have never once said, this is how many impressions we got this month in 2.5 years.
You heard it here first, folks. He didn't go as far as saying that impressions are dead, but he kind of did. He kind of went there. Kind of went there. You know, I had a conversation with Ash about this. We were talking about the personal brand industry. And one of the things that I don't think is really qualified enough, and I'm a big believer, I've started to say when I create things, who are the people that are choosing to either follow or connect with me? And like, it's not a metric, it's actually hard to measure. Well, it's not hard to measure, I can look at it. I'm talking a bit anecdotally. But that to me is the strongest signal that I am attracting the right person. Not engagement, not post reach, not comments. I actually look of who now is discovering me and what do they do? Because I fundamentally, selfishly and for the business, I want to appeal to heads of marketing, marketing managers, social media professionals, founders, anyone that needs marketing services. So I've now got this, I suppose, internal metric that I care about. Although where I will disagree, and I do believe impressions has a place, there is often a clear correlation between scale and some results.
Absolutely.
You know, so, and impressions is the simplest way to aggregate data from different data sources, in the sense that each platform calculates a view slightly differently. And if accuracy matters, impressions to a degree is the simplest metric to report on. So I won't go as far as you and say get rid of it, but what I do think every company should have and brand is a metric that is much harder to quantify, one that they have to work harder at establishing, but one that gives them either deep insight into how they should behave next and or validates exactly what they're doing. For me, the ads, the connections, the follows from marketeers or big brands or whoever I want to attract, that to me is the validation that what I said is right, and that's the insight that should then drive my future actions. So I think each company, and I believe it'll be very unique to every company. You know, there's only so many variables, right, in what we do, but I do think there's metrics that you can find, and it's probably a decent North Star.
Yeah, love that.
Dude, we'll wrap up, but I want to leave you with a headline, and I'm going to call this the debate of the week. Business of fashion. Yes, Catty, I read Business of Fashion. Just because you're working with Gucci and all of these bougie brands, Mr. 1%, I do read Business of Fashion. I read an article that said, Nike is losing its edge. And I looked down at my sneaks and thought, fuck, am I getting old? Am I past it? Is my admiration misplaced? Did you read the article? What did you think? And is Nike losing its edge?
I read some of the article. I didn't read the whole thing. I think that, you know, they showed I think they showed like a revenue chart to illustrate this point. And I don't know if that's like fully reflective of necessarily when something's losing its edge or not. What I will say is that, you know, the sportswear as a trend and that kind of whole industry has exploded so much. Obviously, you know, in the 2000s, but now it's kind of gone to another level, that there are just so many competitors now that are new, cooler, and the way trends work, they kind of work on this 20-year cycle. Nike have always been that brand who kind of cut through that, right? So like if you think of trends like, you know, Asics, or if you think of like New Balance, they were very cool 20 years ago, and then they went through a very kind of stagnant period. Solomon or another one. They have all recently become super cool again because of this kind of 20-year cycle. Nike have been one of those brands like Adidas who just kind of are elevated above that. They don't seem to be held to these same timelines because they are so big and they are so culturally significant. But they're also like a big tech company, right? They're such a huge company. They have so many employees. They're not going to be able to move as quick as the other ones, and they're not going to have that kind of, they're not as close, I think, to the culture, to the fashion culture as the other brands. And so people just, you know, they have more options now. There are more options. There are more interesting options. The accessibility to shop is greater. So if you think about like, the way you used to shop in the past was you go to a store in person and you'd see the Nike shoes at the front of the window. And so those are the ones you choose. But now you have, Instagram, you have Essence, you have all these kind of retailers where Nike don't have that same control over the distribution that they used to. And so people can now come in and choose what they want. And so I disagree because I think Nike will always have cultural cachet that, they still are worn by the biggest soccer players in the world, the biggest rappers in the world are still wearing Nike. I don't think they're going to die anytime soon, but there are more options now. They might have lost their cool for a sec, but I feel like Nike always have a way of coming back around again.
I agree. Journalists being journalists is a good headline. We're talking about it, created debate. I think it's a great headline. And look, data, you can tell a story with data. Any story you like, actually. And I believe the data they used was a profit kind of signal. When you zoom out for a second and look over the last 50 years, Nike have one trajectory as a fundamental business. And man, you have to respect brands that can transcend trends. And Nike is one of those. And to your point, how they dominate such big parts of culture, whether it's sport, entertainment, you name it. So I think my thing that I find most impressive about brands where they truly can serve everyone. They are relevant and cool to the most influential early adopters and cultural figures. They, the real influencers in the world, they can be cool and relevant. They can also serve Jeff in Grimsby, right? In his tracksuits from Sports Direct. Like, it's very rare, actually, that brands can coexist in those two environments. It is actually quite rare, so you have to massively respect that. I was thinking, as you were describing that, Represent have had a phenomenal success, continued Manchester business, and they do some really cool stuff from interest. And I think fundamentally they build great products. Great. I think what they do is great. There's part of me have distanced myself from them just because, like, you can't walk into Manchester without seeing just everyone head to toe in Represent. And, like, all credit to them. But I always wonder, like, as a brand at that stage, do you have to make a choice? Do you up your price point? Because I still think they're affordable for the quality. I think they make, great clothing. And do you pursue relevance in a certain category, a premium and up? Or do you continue down this path? Because I think there's a risk in that junction, and time will tell. But yeah, by the way, I'm not shitting on Represent. I think what they've done is phenomenal. But on that note, my man, 1% Club.
Welcome. Feels good.
Hands on keyboard. Wear your privilege proud. Wear it proud. You can saunter around Cheshire or wherever you come when you come back to the UK, and your bug's your little estate in Williamsburg, and have carry your privilege with you. When will we see you on a billboard? That's what I want to know.
I'll make it happen.
1 million impressions. Just shoot.
1%.
No, I would go. I promise this ad will get 1 million impressions. Like me, drop that billboard. Let's make it happen. Jay, that needs to be the thumbnail. 1% Club, Catty flexing on his own billboard. Boom. What a way to end.
What a closer.
What a closer. Cool. All right, man.
See you.